You ready over there on your side? Because if you are, then I'm going to go ahead and start the show. I'm just messing with you. You should have seen his face.
Well, I was like, "Are you talking to me?" Or
is he like
what's going on
serious?
here?
Is he not really ready? We're recording. I mean, we have to be ready. We don't have an option because it's Tuesday, and this is Student of the Gun Radio, and I am your host, Professor Paul Markle. I am the lead professor at Student of the Gun University. Somebody asked that the other day. What's the professor thing all about? It's kind of an honorary title that's actually bestowed upon me, but I thought it was apropos because we have, and I preside over, Student of the Gun University. That's right. If you're not familiar with Student of the Gun University, shame on you, but you can fix yourself real easily by going to studentofthegun.com, and you can check everything out from there. Studentofthegun.com is the central hub for all things Student of the Gun, TV, radio, website, blog, you name it, whatever you want to do, start right there. And on the other side of the glass is Jared. We're coming to you, at least I am, from the official Glass Case of Emotion Studios here in sunny Biloxi, Mississippi, where it is Mardi Gras week. Woo! Happy Fat Tuesday to all you Southerners, to all you people on the Gulf Coast, you Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. I don't know. Do they celebrate in Texas? Maybe in Texas. But, it's funny about being on the Gulf Coast is you have people think Mardi Gras and they think New Orleans. But if you go over to Mobile, Alabama, or if you go to Biloxi or Gulfport, Mississippi, they're like, oh, no. The real Mardi Gras is here. And they stole it from us. Everyone says that about each other. Everyone, like Mobile people will tell you their parade is way better than New Orleans and so on and so forth. But essentially, if you live in the South, there's pretty much, you don't need an excuse to have a parade. They have parades. There's not just one parade. All you Yankees and Westerners and so forth, you think that there's one parade for Mardi Gras. No. There's lots of parades. There's all kinds of parades. They started parading last week and paraded all the way through the weekend up until Fat Tuesday. And, of course, Fat Tuesday is what? It is the Tuesday before Lent. So all of you Catholics and conservative Christians and so forth know about Lent, and that's the whole. People are like, "Oh, Mardi Gras is about paganism and about avarice and all this stuff." Actually, it goes back to the whole final big party before the beginning of Lent, and Mardi Gras is different every year based upon the Easter calendar. So whenever Easter is, you take that and you back it off to Lent, and then you back that off, and that's when you get Mardi Gras. So that's what's going on here. And yesterday was President's Day, but if you live on the Gulf Coast, like Biloxi, Gulfport, you name it, they give the kids off Mardi Gras. They're all off today, aren't they? All the Gulfport kids, because they got parades in Gulfport. They got parades.
Usually, yeah, probably.
They get Mardi Gras off.
They go back on Wednesday. I know that when I worked at the chemical company, we either got Monday or Tuesday, but not both.
So all you guys living up there in New England or the Midwest, do you get Mardi Gras off?
Are you going to any parades today?
Me?
Yeah.
Personally? No. I got my parade in. I took Mrs. Markle, and we went to New Orleans last week, and we got one of the earlier parades, the parade of the Knights of Babylon. We watched that one.
Speaking of Mrs. Markle, I've had a few people email me asking when she's going to come back next. If that's something you guys are interested in, let us know. Because
no.
Yeah.
No. She already told enough secrets.
Nope.
No.
We'll just do it when you're gone.
She already blabbed enough secrets.
You have trips to take.
About me. Yeah, but you'll be with me on the trip, so there you go.
I don't know what to say.
That's right. You don't know what to say, so be quiet. All right, folks, this segment of Student of the Gun Radio is brought to you by SWAT Fuel at SWATfuel.com. If you go to SWATfuel.com and you want to make a purchase, be sure, absolutely sure, that you're using the promo code SOTG2014, because if you do that, you're going to save 20% off your total order. And in addition to SWAT Fuel, this segment is brought to you by Velocity Triggers, designed for precision. And if you've got a black rifle, if you have an AR-15 and you want to put a match trigger or a precision trigger in it, you want to just drop it in, do it at your workbench, at your kitchen table, wherever you fiddle with guns, you can do it. Yes, you can do it yourself. You don't even have to pay a gunsmith $200. You can do it yourself. And that's velocitytriggers.com, so check those guys out. All right. I wanted to share a quote with you folks, and I found this. I'm doing research for a new book. It's in the Patriot Fire Team series of books. And yeah, oh, by the way, we've decided that we're going to do a series of books. Congratulations. You know that now. The next book I have been working on for several weeks now, and not done with it yet, but getting closer to completion. And I've done a lot of research for this book. And here's a quote that I found. It says, "To know what is right and not do it is the worst cowardice." And that's a Confucius quote. I thought that you would appreciate that, because there are a lot of people out there in the United States of America today that know what the right thing is to do, but for whatever reason, they're not doing that thing. They're either afraid, or they're distracted, or they are overcome with guilt, or what have you. But the fact is you know, I know, we know what is right and what we should be doing. But the question is, will we?
Confucius say, do it.
That's right. Confucius say, do it. Now, before we get into the really super serious stuff, we've got a little bit of levity from up north. Now, I call it levity. Now, they're actually were in a panic up in the Great White North, and we're going to tell you why after Jared drops the theme song on us. Thank you, Geddy Lee of Rush, for the Canadian update theme. Take off, eh? Now, check this out. This comes to us from one of you folks out there in the audience shared it with us. Thank you very much. And it comes to us from thechronicleherald.ca. Kids with slingshot charged after report of weapon near Halifax Mall. And you're like, whoa. What is going on here? Well, I'll tell you. It says Halifax police took 7 young people into custody near Halifax Shopping Center on Saturday evening after a report of a weapon sent shockwaves through a community already on edge from a foiled mass shooting plot. Whew. Wow, that's a lot to be afraid of up there. You got a fright. I think they've got a fright up there. Police said the weapon turned out to be kids with a slingshot. There's no active shooter situation at the Halifax Shopping Center, police said in a release sent out about 7:30 p.m. This was Saturday the 14th. 2 teenage boys involved in the incident will appear in youth court on Tuesday. That would be today. They're Utes, or the Ute Court. Halifax police said Sunday morning a 16 and 17-year-old face a number of charges, including damaging property, possession of dangerous weapons, and breach of probation and breach of recognizance.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot of breaches right there. Early Saturday, police had identified the mall as a target of an attack that had been planned for Valentine's Day. They foiled it, but they told everyone so they could be really scared. Police received a call of multiple shots fired at a bus around 6:40 p.m., dispatched numerous police units as well as the emergency response team. And then they found out it was 2 kids with slingshots.
So they heard gunfire from a slingshot.
Well, yeah, it says people were panicked, laying on the floor of the buses and calling in sound of that they had received gunfire. So yeah.
They heard things impacting the bus
windows, and they thought it was gunfire.
They don't think that the bullets would go through the windows?
Well, maybe those are really super strong bus windows.
Wow.
You don't know. And then the police got there, and they're like, oh, yeah. I bet you there's a lot of depends that had to be changed, huh? Sounds to me. But, folks, I don't even know what to tell you. But that's
what happens when you create an ignorant society.
When they're afraid of their own shadows. They got that in England, and they've got it in Canada, and soon coming to a state near you. What we want to do is we want to frighten the citizens to the point that they're constantly calling the police and panicking. If they see someone with a gun, hear a gun, think they may have seen a gun, they might see a dude walking down the street with an umbrella and call 911 and send a SWAT team out after the man with the rifle. How many times have we seen that so far, where people saw someone with carrying an umbrella, and they sent the SWAT team out?
It's a umbrella that fires bullets.
No. That's what happens when you see people so worked up as they start seeing things and hearing things that aren't really there. But what the heck? Now, the main body of this particular episode of Student of the Gun Radio today is going to be dealing with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, and Party Favors, and how apparently this three-letter bureaucracy, this faceless bureaucracy that is not elected by the people, that has no one in there has been duly elected or vetted by the voters. But it is a bureaucracy, and there are lots of bureaucracies in the United States of America that have been created to oversee the actions of the people. Because you peasants out there, we got to keep an eye on you. Because A, you're too stupid to know what's good for you, so we need government bureaucrats to oversee every action and every aspect of your life, not just gun ownership, but everything else as well. Now, when the Bundy Ranch thing was going on, and we talked about that at length last year, we introduced you to a guy who goes by the name of The Real Triple B. And The Real Triple B, his title, did you see his title, Jared? He said, Insane Legal Mind and Champion Moon Buggy Racer. But is he a door gunner on the space shuttle? That's what I want to know. Is he qualified to be a door gunner on a space shuttle? He might be a moon buggy racer, but until he gets his space shuttle door gunner registry, I don't know if I'll be impressed. This guy's actually pretty cool. You may have seen some of his videos. His signature dealio is he wears a gray sports coat. He's got a salt and pepper beard, and he wears like a cryptic baseball hat. So he'll wear a cryptic baseball hat, and he basically gave a really good breakdown of the Bureau of Land Management and how the government has essentially just completely forgotten about that whole Constitution thing and founding principles and decided that you're a bunch of stupid peasants and that we know what is best for you. Now, there's so much going on with the ATF right now. You might be thinking, which story are you talking about, Paul? You probably saw this and thought, he's going to talk about SIG braces, or he's going to talk about 7N6 545 ammo, or he's going to talk about the Sega ban, or he's going to talk about the new 585 or 5855.
Yeah, the green tip.
The M855. Sorry, the M855 green tip. Yeah, all that. And it used to be that when these bureaucracies decided they were going to come out and they were going to ban something just on their own, executive fiat authority, no legislation, no vote, nothing like that, it would be like every few years that was happening. If you've been paying attention, and we hope that you have, this stuff's not happened like every once in a while, every few years. They're ramping it up, and it's like every few months they're coming out and deciding what you can and can't have. And in the case of the SIG braces, they decided that, well, we know we said one thing, but we've changed our minds. What we told you was legal, we've changed our minds, and we've just decided that it's no longer legal. So how do you, as someone who actually wants to stay on the right side of the law, who's very concerned about being law-abiding and following the law, how do you know from day to day? Because something that was legal, it's like I almost forgot, Jared, 80% lowers. The 80% lowers where, well, we know that it was technically legal last year, but we've written a new memorandum that says if you purchase it with the intent to complete it, then you become a manufacturer. So the only way you can not be a felon is if you buy it and use it as a paperweight on your desk. Because if you purchase it with the intent to complete it, then you have to have a manufacturer's license. And if you don't have a manufacturer's license, now you're a felon, and we're going to come and raid you and break open your safes. And even though a federal judge told us not to, screw them, we do what we want. Yeah, I even forgot about that. Well, the real Triple B, and you guys want to check him out on Facebook. That's his handle. It's the real Triple B. On not Facebook, I'm sorry. I'm sure he has a Facebook, but this is on YouTube. Check this guy out and give him a like or a share or whatever it is you do with all your stuff.
Subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, that's it. Whatever. And he's also a Facebooker too. But Jared's going to go ahead and he's going to cue this up. Now, this is important, folks. It is a long video, but it is chocked full of good, solid information. And this is information that I don't care whether you like AKs, whether you like SIG braces, whether you think the SIG brace is the stupidest thing you've ever seen in your life. It doesn't matter. You need to pay attention to what this guy's saying. So I'm going to go ahead and shut my lips right now, and I'm going to let you listen to it.
Did you know that an unelected bureaucrat from a federal agency can snap their fingers, write a letter, and decree a new law? Yeah, it can get all Game of Thrones up in here. Hereforth in the land of the 50 states, the HNIC of all things that go boom now declare. Now, I ain't talking about Cuba or North Korea even. In fact, I think laws actually have to be passed by their elected leaders. Nope, bureaucratic legislation is an American reality. You see, when legislators draft new complex laws about things they don't understand, which kind of seems to be everything,
fired 2 blasts outside the house.
This is a ghost gun.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Do you know what a barrel shroud is?
I actually don't know what a barrel shroud is.
Because it's in your legislation.
Shoulder thing that goes up.
They simply defer the real lawmaking ability to some alphabet soup federal agency by permitting the bureaucrats in that agency to define the legally operative language of that law. In other words, even though the legislators write the law, the federal agencies have the power to interpret what the language in the law means and how to conduct enforcement. For example, let's look at the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. Despite detailed legislation, Congress deferred entire authority over the control of standards, schedules of illicit substances, and the rules and regulations from everything including storage, disposal, and record keeping to the Office of the Attorney General. The Drug Enforcement Agency and the Food and Drug Administration, in conjunction with the Attorney General, all unelected, mind you, have the power under this law to evaluate and define nearly every aspect of the law. Congress even deferred lawmaking ability to the United Nations under Section 811, subsection D. Yeah, China, Iran, and Turkmenistan all have the power to dictate American drug laws. Not a joke, not a joke. All of those countries are currently on the United Nations Commission for Narcotic Drugs. The ultimate decision that naturally growing herbs and proteins are illegal, but highly chemicalized opiates that cause cancer are perfectly fine is decided by bureaucrats. In Turkmenistan, maybe. Another example is the Environmental Protection Agency, tasked with policing the air and the water and paranormal storage facilities. The Clean Water Act empowers the EPA to govern the rules and regulations regarding the discharge of pollutants into something called navigable water. What is navigable water? Well, traditionally, it's what it sounds like. It's any body of water that you can navigate a commercial vessel along. Even though that definition encompasses far more than commercially navigable water, the EPA still feels as though it limits their scope of authority far too much, and they want to change it to any land frequently saturated by water. Considering the EPA has defined large chunks of desert as protected wetlands, this definition would probably encompass all land in America. Add on to that the fact that the EPA's definition for pollutant includes things like rocks and heat. Damn you, son, polluting our waters! And don't even get me started on you, beaches. You don't think I could file a lawsuit against you? Just watch. Given all the rules they can choose to enforce over navigable water, can you just imagine the intrusive potential on every citizen's property rights? And all the EPA has to do is write a letter. Is that how you thought the American legal system worked? Does that make you feel properly represented in the lawmaking process? This brings us to the ATF and the SIG brace, because we all know that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives ain't going to be outdone by the Environmental Protection Agency. The ATF be all like, to hell with this ridiculous charade of redefining existing legislation. We're going to create new legislation. We're going to create a new legally operative term. We're going to create the definition for that term, and we're going to attach it to a felony penalty. What the ATF has done, again, by simply writing a letter, a unilateral letter, a decree. What they've done is they've said that even though the AR-15 pistol and the SIG brace put together are totally legal, totally fine, as soon as the user shoulders that brace, they've redesigned it and are now in possession of a short-barreled rifle. Now, I know a lot of you out there are super knowledgeable about all the details of this case, but I think a little background on AR-15s, the SIG stabilizing brace, and the National Firearms Act of 1934 is going to go a long way into helping us all grasp just how extremely serious this is. So real quick, legally speaking, there are 3 kinds of AR-15s that are being currently manufactured that can be freely purchased in America: rifles, short-barreled rifles, and pistols, all of which are semi-automatic. This case boils down to short-barreled rifles, or SBRs, and pistols. SBRs are rifles with barrel lengths of less than 16 inches and can only be purchased pursuant to an application, registration, and tax system first established under the National Firearms Act of 1934. More on that in a second. AR-15 pistols are not designed to be fired from the shoulder, but rather held out in front of the shooter. And because of that, they do not fit the very well and very specific definition for short-barreled rifles or rifles under the National Firearms Act. The AR-15 arm stabilizing brace made by Sig Sauer, or SIG brace, was created by Alex Bosco to effectively and safely operate AR-15 pistols. Now, for a variety of reasons and arguments, many prefer to use a rifle for home and self-defense as opposed to a handgun. Rifles, unfortunately, especially those with longer barrels, are extremely difficult to balance and operate with one arm. Even if America is home of the bicep. Kaplow! With the SIG brace that's designed to be wrapped around the forearm, not shouldered, Mr. Bosco created an innovative solution for disabled veterans and citizens alike who wanted more control and stability out of an AR-15 pistol, but couldn't afford the time and the expense to go through purchasing and registering an SBR. And when I say considerable time and expense, I'm talking about taxes that can add as much as a 20% increase to the purchase cost of the firearm, and wait times for registration that can be in excess of a year. Now, considering the basic fundamental difference between a pistol and a rifle is that, and the grooves here on the buffer tube which accept this, some see this whole distinction and debate as a petty power grab that has no place in the land of the free, and that short-barreled rifles should just be free to purchase without registration. Yeah, and then there's people who don't like to have fun who think AR-15 pistols should be flat out illegal. Do you guys not know that the shorter barrel you have, the bigger your balls are? Now, I don't mean to be crude to all the lovely ladies watching this video, but a short barrel on a rifle is like a curvaceous ass. Nobody ever wrote a song about a long barrel or a skinny butt. Now, when you put the SIG brace on, admittedly, you can shoulder it just like you can shoulder this buffer tube. It's not great, but it works, and the SIG brace works better. Yeah, I admit that. Now, I don't care if you think that's a stupid loophole. Both the SIG brace and an AR-15 pistol are not designed to be fired from the shoulder. The ATF has approved their sweet little SBR tax avoidance package, and there's nothing existing in the National Firearms Act of 1934 that allows the ATF to change that. It has to be done through a proper legislative process. Don't worry, my opinions on the legality of the 1934 Act and US v. Miller, that's another video we're going to get to. It's like what those ATF officers say when they realize they're putting their boot on their fellow citizen's neck. They don't make the law, they just enforce it. Or do they? What the ATF has decreed through their letter is that even though an AR-15 with a SIG brace are totally legal to own, put together, and have, as soon as the user takes that brace and puts it to their shoulder with the pistol, they've redesigned it and are now in possession of a short-barreled rifle. The term redesign does not exist in the National Firearms Act. The ATF has literally pulled it out of their ass and created a definition for it, justifying it by the fact that their definition came from Webster's. Now, it looks like the ATF's got something against American heritage. Now, the National Firearms Act does specifically prohibit someone from sawing down the barrel on their shotgun, or taking an AR-15 short-barreled upper and attaching it to an unregistered lower. In those cases, they are physically manufacturing a short-barreled shotgun or a short-barreled rifle. That's not the case here with what the ATF is saying about the SIG brace. There's no physical remanufacturing going on. The SIG brace is perfectly legal, and if it's not used a certain way, it remains perfectly legal. Whereas the short-barreled shotgun and the short-barreled rifle are being physically altered so that the person is now possessing what is said to be an illegal weapons platform. As much as it pains me to defend my position with the National Firearms Act, it only covers manufacturing, physical alteration, and possession. If the design is good to go and approved and legal, as long as it remains that way, it should remain good to go. The ATF didn't redefine the law, they created a new law with a new term and a new definition. I suppose if you ask them, they'd say they redesigned the law. No debate, no deliberation, no public legal analysis, no due process. They just created a new law. Now maybe I'm wearing crazy pants. I did grow up in the 80s when jams were the but when unelected authorities self-impose the power to decree and enforce laws, especially laws that disarm the population, a recipe for freedom is not being brewed.
Woo! Am I on? All right. Thank you very much to the real Triple B for providing us with that audio.
That was a lot of information.
That was a lot of information, and the good thing about a podcast format is you can listen to it over and over again. It's not live. But, folks, yesterday we teased you, and we talked about this. We said, the whole separation of powers. Hopefully you are educated enough as a citizen of the United States that you understand the foundation, the founding documents, and the principles of separation of powers. I know when I went to school I was taught this. There is an executive branch, which is in charge of law enforcement. There is a legislative branch, which is in charge of law creation. They're the ones who pass bills, and then they become laws. And then there's a judicial branch, which examines law to see and determine whether or not, A, the law has been broken, or B, the law in and of itself is constitutional or within the founding framework. Okay, that whole United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. You guys remember that. And if you live in a state, and I'm assuming most of you live in a state, then your state has a state constitution, whether it's Mississippi or Ohio or wherever.
You know that there's people that live in America that have never read the Constitution?
And
there's also people that live in states that have never read their state's constitution, so they don't even know their rights.
And most state constitutions, because they were written, especially, when you're talking,
if you're one of those people, fix yourself,
read the Constitution. So, why should I read the Constitution? That's not my job. That's the job of the people I elect. It's their job to read it. Folks, have you paid attention? Have you looked around? It doesn't seem to me like anybody who's working in the seats of government
knows how to read.
Has read the Constitution.
I was going to say knows
how to read. So what is the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, and Party Favors? What are they? What branch do they fall under, really? In the real world, do they fall under the judicial or legislative or executive branch? Well, obviously, because they are supposed to be a law enforcement agency, they fall under the executive branch. Now, going back again, does the executive branch of government have the authority to create law and or interpret law? The answer is no. The judicial branch of government interprets law and application of law.
So that means that the executive branch enforces the law, the judicial branch interprets the law. So what is the legislative branch? I can't talk right now. Yeah, I need a drink.
Take a drink. They create law. Okay, so let's just say that in your state you've decided that you're going to blah blah blah. Folks, you should know. All right, it gets proposed, it becomes a bill, the bill gets voted on, it gets amended, blah blah blah. The Congress and the Senate both vote for the bill. Then it goes to whom? It goes to the executive, whether it's the governor or the president, and they sign it. And then once it's signed, then it becomes an official law. And then it's up to the executive branch to enforce that law, whatever that law happens to be. Okay, great. Well, the reason that whole process is in there is because those crazy guys, those crazy founding fathers, they knew that in the history of mankind, that what you ended up having was you had a bunch of elitists, a bunch of ruling class elitists who got in charge, whether it's a monarchy, an oligarchy, you name it, whatever it happens to be. They all just get together in their big building and say, the peasants are just too stupid to know what's good for them. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to come up with a bunch of laws, rules, regulations, and taxes, and we're going to impose those on the citizens. And they're just going to have to sit in the middle and chew on it because tough noogies. Well, we decided that, hey, we're not going to play that silly little game. We're going to have a representative republic. And if the people that are the representatives, the duly elected and appointed representatives, if we send them up there and they vote on a piece of legislation, they make it a law, and we think it's bad law, we're going to get rid of them. Riddle me this, Batman. How do you vote out the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, and Party Favors? How do you vote them out? Oh, that's right. You don't, because they're not elected. We say, well, that's no big deal. I can't vote out my chief of police, Paul. I can't vote him out. I can't vote out the head of the FBI. Is the chief of police in your city? Does the chief of police in your town have the authority to create and interpret law? I'll throw this out to you. You have a chief of police in your city, wherever it happens to be. And they've come out and they decided, you know what? The AR-15 is too dangerous for citizens to possess. Now, the state can possess it because the state is smart and intelligent and well-trained. You people are stupid. So as the chief of police of Smithville, USA, I have hereby decreed that based upon the dangerous ordinance statute in the state law, because every state law has dangerous ordinance statutes, that the AR-15 and all of its similar formats and so forth, if it can take a detachable magazine, it is now dangerous ordinance, and unless you have a permit to possess dangerous ordinance, you're breaking the law. What if your chief of police came out and said that? What would you say? You'd go nuts, wouldn't you? You would freak out. You would flood the mayor's office with calls. You would surround City Hall with picket signs and so forth. You'd say, you don't have the authority, Mr. Chief of Police, to just decide on your own. That is exactly what is happening on a national level. That is exactly what's happening on a national level. And, all right, we've talked about the Street Sweeper and the Stryker 12s. We've talked about the Sega thing. We've talked about the Kalashnikov deal. We've talked about the 7N6 5.56 ammo. Well, and now the SIG braces. But I'm not even talking about the SIG braces because heck, that was all last month. I mean, that's an old story. That goes all the way back to January. The newest memorandum, the legislation by memorandum that's coming down the pike is this, and it comes to us from the NRA's ILA.org website. And it says, BATFE to ban common AR-15 ammo. In a move clearly intended by the Obama administration to suppress the acquisition, ownership, and use of AR-15s and other .223 caliber rifles, the BATFE is unexpectedly announced today, and this was February 13th, last Friday, that it intends to ban commonplace. Now, stop. How does a government bureaucracy, how does a member of the executive branch of government have the authority to ban anything? And this goes all the way back to the SIG brace thing, because all these stories came out in January that said, quote, ATF rules, SIG brace. The ATF has ruled, Jared, you're a smart kid over there on the other side of the glass. Which branch of government is the only branch of government that is allowed to issue rulings.
The judicial.
Yeah, that's right. When
judicial judge.
Judges.
Yeah, that's easy. That makes it easy for you too.
Supreme courts, district courts. Okay, when you get a ruling, or when the Supreme Court decides something, then they issue a ruling. Can you imagine if the report was, Sheriff John Jones of Holmes County, Missouri, has ruled that this is illegal now? You're part of the executive branch. You don't get to issue rulings. Who told you that you had the authority to rule on anything? And who gave you that authority? So here we go. And it says yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. And their class armor-piercing ammunition, decision by the Obama administration to use executive authority to impose. And this hits the nail right on the head. The decision continues Obama's use of executive authority to impose gun control restrictions and bypass the Congress of the United States of America. And folks, we've been telling you this for years. They figured out that they can't get this. They can't get the gun control that they want. They can't get that through laws, because what has to happen when you pass a law? Well, people have to go out in public. Your elected representatives have to actually go out in public and go on record supporting gun bans and gun restrictions and so forth. They basically have to go on record contradicting the Constitution of the United States. Well, all these folks with D's behind their names, they figured that we can't really do that. We can't go out in public and openly oppose the Constitution because the masses, these peasants, are kind of hip to us, and we might not get reelected. So how can we inflict laws and rules and regulations upon the citizens without allowing the duly elected representatives of those people to vote on it or even to have an opinion? Well, screw those peasants. We're just going to pass executive edicts. Folks, do you know what an executive order is? An executive order is for the administration of the executive branch of government.
It is not a law.
An executive order is not law under the supreme law of the land, the United States Constitution. So how many of you out there, and if you should be hanging your head right now, how many of you out there, when the story about the 76N556, when the ATF just decided that because one person out of 330 million made a .545 pistol, and it could use the .545 pistol could be, not necessarily was, but it was possible to put this Russian surplus ammo into that gun. Therefore, it had created a situation where a handgun could chamber, quote, armor-piercing ammunition. And because of that one little tiny speck in the ocean, then we're going to hereby ban all importation of that. Now, and people are like, well, I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. I don't use that anyway. Or they took the opposite tack. They're like, good job, dummy. Way to make a .545 pistol. You screwed it up for the rest of us. You baby. You freaking babies. That's your reaction is, oh, we have to hide. We have to make sure that we don't displease Master. If we displease Master, he will beat us. We need to make sure that we don't displease our Master, because he will take away our fun toys. Is that what you are? Is that what you are? And then when the Kalashnikov ban, they're like, the Bureau of Party Favors and Chips decided that we talked about this too. They circulated the memo. Well, we're thinking about classifying the Saiga shotgun as a destructive device. What do you guys think about that? Well, they got a lot of pushback, and they're like, ugh, if we come out and we just issue this universal ban, or if we reclassify via memorandum the Saiga as a destructive device, it wasn't like the street sweepers and the strikers where only like a few thousand people owned them. This is like tens of thousands of people own these guns. And if we do that, we might get some pushback. And some congressmen and some senators might get some phone calls, and then they'll call us, and we don't want to take those phone calls. So, but we really don't think the peasants should be allowed to have these things. Because, let's face it, peasants shouldn't be allowed to have guns. Only the state should be allowed to have the guns. And that is our end game. So, what do? Well, Comrade Barry's like, oh, okay, we tried that tact. Nah, all right, just calm down. I'm sure there's a crisis coming up. Oh, no, there's a crisis in the Ukraine. Russia and the Ukraine are having a civil argument. Oh, that does it. I'm banning all importation of all Kalashnikov designed, all Russian-made guns. No more Saigas. No more Russian AKs. No more surplus anything. Doesn't matter if it's technically legal under the Gun Control Act of the NFA. It doesn't matter. We've decided that you can't have it. So they wanted to do it anyway. Then they come out with the 5.45 ammo thing. And let's face it, the reason people buy that is not because it's armor piercing, because it's surplus ammo, and because it's inexpensive to buy and it's inexpensive to shoot. And for years and years, people that wanted to take rifle classes, they wanted to take a fighting rifle class or whatever, and they didn't have a whole lot of money. They didn't have a lot of disposable income. The best economic value out there was to buy an AK-74 semi-auto rifle and get one of those big fat ham cans full of surplus 5.45 because you could get it for like 20 cents a shot. It was a great deal. Well, we can't have the peasants shooting cheap surplus ammo. We can't have them shooting a lot because they might actually train and practice, and that's scary to us.
I don't know why they're worried about that.
Well, yeah, why would they be worried about the peasants actually training and being, So this, and people, we talked about this, and we said, this is, first of all, the ban on the 7 and 6 5.56 ammo because it could be shot in a pistol, and therefore we get to ban it. And everyone on our side put their hand in the air, and they said, what about green tip? You can put that in SIG pistols or Rock River pistols or you name it, AR-15 pistol. You can put that in there. And the folks on our side, and they're like, well, no, they made an exception for that. There's an exception for the green tip. So, and that exception has been in place forever and ever and ever. Oh, well, what just happened? And folks, why do Americans buy M855 green tip ammo? Is it because it's the best hunting ammo? Is it because it's the best? No, they buy it because it's inexpensive, because the United States federal government has been using your tax money to buy and manufacture tons and tons and tons of this stuff. And so quite often the best value is to buy bulk cans of green tip. Let's face it, anything that the U.S. government purchases and authorizes the manufacture of, you're always going to have lots of that, whatever it happens to be. If they come out tomorrow, if the U.S. government came out tomorrow and decided they're going to change all the service weapons over to 17 HMR, then all of a sudden what's going to happen is there'll be tons of 17 HMR ammo available if they decide to do that. And you'll be able to get it at good prices because there'll be surplus. All this does, and they can't even say that it's an import or, it comes from a foreign country, so we're going to ban the import. No, because it's made in America by American companies for the U.S. government. But because they make so much of it, if you're ATK or whomever and you make all this ammo and then the government doesn't buy it all up, well, what do you got? You got a bunch of ammo, you're going to sell it to people. And they're going to buy it and they're going to go out and print, practice and train and so forth. Folks, if you don't realize how this is ramped up, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm telling you this, you better start paying attention. You better get your friends and neighbors. You better wake them up. And all these ninnies and nabobs are like, well, I don't care. Why do Americans think they need to own armor-piercing ammo anyway? If you hear someone say that, you say you are a tool, you are a useless idiot. You're not even a useful idiot. And get away from me. I'm quite frankly depressed at that. But I'm sorry to depress you, but you need to know. You need to understand. If you're going to be a citizen, you need to know the law, and be familiar with the law. Because if you're not, then just anybody can tell you anything, and you're like, well, they said so I guess I have to do it. I'm just a dumb peasant out here. I'm going to go work in the fields. All right, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Quite frankly, we got so far into this, I can't remember if we thanked all of our sponsors, and I'm not going to close this show without thanking them. SWAT Fuel, Velocity Triggers, Brownells at brownells.com, and XS Sites, the fastest sites in any light. So thank you to those guys for letting us be able to come to you each and every day of the week. Well, Monday through Thursday, at least. So it's because of our friends in the industry. All right, folks, tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, and here's what we're going to do tomorrow. I've made this executive decision because I'm not judicial or legislative. I'm executive. Tomorrow's going to be Wednesday, and you guys who follow us on Facebook know that Jared, about a week or so ago, said, hey, what do you guys want to know? What questions do you have? And you guys dumped it out there. You just blasted us with tons of questions, more than we could use for just the good guy. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to do a Student of the Gun AMA, and we're going to dive into that list of questions. We're just going to see how many of them we can knock out. Sound like a plan?
It does sound like a plan. I just got notification on Facebook about Arizona Senate Bill 1330. And on February 10th, 2015, the Senate committee, they moved it forward. They cleared a new bill that would block federal gun control within state borders and essentially make unconstitutional gun control laws impossible to enforce. We're going to talk about that later in the week. It didn't pass as a law yet, but it is moving forward in their
excellent, good news.
Senate. So we'll cover that a little bit along with the Wednesday. I guess tomorrow, Wednesday, we're going to do just the whole show. Will be
we'll do the SWAT. We'll do SWAT Fuel Fitness Talk, and then we'll do AMA, and we've got a little funny video to share with you too.
Okay, that sounds good.
A funny audio clip. All right, folks. Beginner once, student for life.